Welcome to the Heal Yourself podcast, where we dive deep into all things healing. I'm Denise, a speech language pathologist and a self-love coach for adults and teens.
And I'm Kira, a traditional naturopath and functional nutritionist, and we are here to guide you through the transformative process of healing your body, mind, and soul.
From the latest in functional medicine to nurturing your relationship with yourself, healing trauma, and even transforming your money story, we're here to empower you with the knowledge and tools to create lasting change.
So whether you're looking to heal physically, emotionally, or spiritually, join us as we explore the many paths to wholeness and wellness. All right, everyone. Welcome back. We had a ton of people tune into episode 5, which was all about emotions. And we realized we needed to do more episodes about emotions. So here we are again.
Here we are.
Yeah. I think both of us agree that so many people ignore the emotional aspect of their health. And honestly, we know it. Those emotions can create symptoms in the body, which we've touched on. So today we're going to spin it a little bit. We're not going to just talk emotions. We want to talk about emotional intelligence. Ooh. And this is kind of a fun one because the first time I heard it, I'm like, what the hell is that? Like, that's a weird word. But if you think of like someone that's book smart, think of like emotion smart. Like you have.
Oh, that's a good one. I love that. You know how like people say I'm book smart, I'm street smart, I'm emotion smart.
Well, and it's true because some people don't have that emotional intelligence. It's nothing against you. Like it's a learned thing. It's how you grew up. Like, did you have emotional intelligence that was modeled for you, or are you just,
you're absolutely right on this. I'm going to chime in, Kira, because again, if you grew up in an environment where the adults around you did not have emotional intelligence, how are you going to learn it? Yeah. And that's where, like you said, yes, you are going to, practice, and it's a journey as well, because if you didn't know, if no one taught you, you're going to have to teach yourself.
Yeah.
Right? And then
100%.
Again, and then nothing against our parents or the adult figures that raised us. At the end of the day, maybe they did not know. And that's where it's our job, instead of blaming them, oh, my mom didn't teach me. It doesn't matter. Fine, you're an adult now. Let's unlearn and learn.
Yeah.
So it's something that if you didn't grow up, it's kind of like if you don't know how to sew, if no one's shown you how to sew, you're not going to know how to sew.
Yeah, you got to figure it out.
I don't know how to sew, by the way. I don't. No one shows me how to sew. I know you do because you were into fashion. That's why.
Yeah, and it was something I taught myself because there was an interest. But I think that everybody needs to take some sort of interest in emotional intelligence, because otherwise, how are you going to manage those emotions effectively? How are you going to use them? Like, you can get stuck in emotions that don't serve you, like we talked about in our original emotions episode. And that's not a healthy place to be. Like, you want to learn to let them flow through you and sit with the ones that are serving you and let go of the ones that aren't.
Yeah. And the emotional intelligence is understanding the emotions, using them and managing them effectively, right? And that where it's basically a consistent practice of self-reflection, and taking those small actionable steps and tips that we're going to give you in order to develop that or nourish it, or kind of like mature with your emotions. That makes sense, because sometimes we do experience, if we were not taught how to deal with our emotions, we do experience emotions that are kind of like baby-like, right? Childish, like sometimes when we throw tantrums, when we're frustrated, right? That's a baby-like behavior because that we didn't know how to manage it, how to express it. So that's where emotional intelligence comes in, with the self-awareness, self-regulation, motivation, and empathy.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing is sometimes we don't know how to correctly identify our emotions. Oh, I'm just happy, or I'm just sad.
Yeah. Right. And can I chime in with one
Yeah,
tip? Because we
you
need
know
to
it.
develop our emotional vocabulary.
Love that
And
name.
I'm gonna come in with this is with my speech language background actually, because
Yeah,
one of the things I do with my kiddos that have, autism or that have social skills difficulties, they don't know how to express their emotions. They don't
that's
know how
my
to
kiddo.
identify.
Sorry.
They don't know sometimes how to identify emotions in others. So that's why sometimes, even if you're not on the spectrum, even again, if you were raised in a household that did not deal with emotions, maturely and effectively, then you didn't develop that. You don't know how to also interpret other people's emotions.
Yeah.
So we definitely want to nourish our emotional vocabulary. Okay. So, learn to identify beyond, like you said, happy, sad, angry. Okay, so you want to name specific emotions. I am disappointed right now, right? Disappointed is different than sad,
Mm-hmm.
right? Yes, it's a negative emotion, but it's different. Overwhelmed. I'm overwhelmed. I'm joyful. I'm ecstatic. Ecstatic is different than happy, right? Because you're happy,
Yeah.
you're regular happy and have ecstatic. So try to also use different vocabulary, emotional vocabulary. And within that, you want to reflect on interaction. So that's a really cool tip, actually, that you can do at the end of each day to also get yourself used to self-reflection, right? So at the end of each day, reflect on some social interactions that stood out, right? It could be, I mean, I don't know. You're going to have to kind of like anything that stood out to you and you want to self-reflect. Consider what went well and what could be improved. Oh,
Without
for
judgment.
example,
I'm throwing that
without
out there.
judgment.
Without
Yeah.
judgment.
I mean, because I'm going to give you an example. I've been, because, I've been working on my mindset and emotion
Mhm.
on a lot of things, right? So when sometimes I express my emotions differently, or I deal or I interpret things differently, I tell myself, oh, good job, Denise. You have matured. You responded in a mature way.
I love it.
I congratulate myself when I, self-reflect. So that's really important for you to self-reflect. I mean, if you don't want to take all of those social interactions, just pick one or two at least at the end of the day. Sit with yourself, whether with the journal or just with yourself, and then see what went well or what could be improved. Like, I kind of reacted. Was the reaction really necessary? And let's dig deep, right? And because it does require self-reflection. And, this self-reflection will enhance all aspects of emotional intelligence because you're starting to actually practice.
And I want to
And
chime in here. Sorry.
yes, yes,
I'm
ma'am.
also going to say, like, us telling you this is not just for fun. Like, no one really wants to sit and reflect. The goal is to make your life better. Like, when we're talking healing, we're looking at all aspects, and this is going to play into relationships. If you don't have emotional intelligence, and the first thing you do is turn to your spouse or your best friend or whoever and start yelling at them and throwing out, I feel this way and I feel that way, and you made me feel this way, that's not emotional intelligence. So when you can
Mm-mm.
really sit and do some self reflection, which is the painful stuff, right? We always said that this is the hard part of healing. That's when those relationships are going to improve.
Absolutely. Exactly. They're not going to improve by pointing the fingers or you made me,
They're not.
especially with the kids. And then also, I want to give a quick tip. This is in between. If you are a parent, if you're listening and you are a parent, the best way to practice what you are actually learning, whether through here or in general, not just model it, teach it to your children. Because what we do is we learn when we model and also when we teach and speak out loud about what we learned.
Mhm.
So, and I've done this with my kids with the health journey when I started with the mindset. And I remember what they would tell me, you, mommy, you made me upset. You made me angry. And I say, I always repeat to them, I don't make you anything. You
Mhm.
are choosing to be happy, to be angry or sad or upset at something that I said, right? Of course, when they're little, maybe they're not understanding that. But guess what? They're going to become young adults and they are going to remember that no one makes me anything. I make my reactions or my triggers, etc. So that's why we're saying self-reflect, to do the work. It's painful. Yes, but that's healing, right? I mean,
Yeah.
we're going to see growth. We're seeking growth, not perfection. This has
Yeah.
always been our theme as well, right? Throughout the podcast, like improving emotional intelligence is a journey, just like healing is a journey, just like anything we're talking about, it is a journey. You got to be patient with yourself. Celebrate the small wins, celebrate just like I tell myself, good job, Denise. You're maturing. I'm 45 years old, almost 46, and I congratulate myself when I mature. And then also, like we have said it before, but we're gonna say it again. Any setback, view them all as even triggers or sometimes emotional outbursts, view them as opportunities.
Yeah,
And,
they
celebrate
are.
any progress, any progress.
Yeah. Well, I want to also teach our listeners something. So I'm laughing because Denise and I ran like random health programs together years ago, and now it
Those
feels
are
like
the best.
but it feels like a lifetime ago. Do you remember when we ran the sugar one and we came up with like some techniques?
Yes. Sweet
So
defeat.
sweet defeat, that's what it was. I don't even remember what our technique was, but I have a technique today. So throwback here, but the
All right.
stop technique, okay? Stop. So I'm not going to just yell like stop it, but like when you have one of those super strong emotions, like true anger, frustration, like you're losing your cool, you're gonna start lashing out at, whoever you're interacting with, whatever. Take a few seconds to pause and breathe, of course, before reacting. So the stop technique is stop what you're doing, T, so the T and stop, take a step back, observe your thoughts and feelings, and proceed mindfully. When you can do that, you're going to respond with emotional intelligence because a lot of times we're just reacting, right? Like one of the things, oh my gosh, my husband listens to this episode, he's going to kill me. But one of the things that I've been
Don't
saying,
listen.
don't
You're not
listen,
listening. If you're
turn
listening, that's not
back.
what she said.
um, but I've always said, like, you just listen to respond. You don't listen to understand. And that's what so many, and I'm not saying I'm perfect at that by any means, but that is something that so many of us do. We're listening, especially if we start getting heated or we're excited about
Mm,
something, we're just listening to respond. And it's like, okay, but that the person doesn't just need you to respond, they need you to actually hear what they're saying and then respond mindfully. We can't do that if we're just listening to respond. So stop technique is going to help you out there.
yes, I love that. I love that. And because that pause is going to give you some time to, it's going to
Reflect.
lessen that
Yeah,
reaction. And I
it
love
is.
what you're saying. Like emotional intelligence is basically, instead of reacting, responding mindfully.
Yeah,
That
it
doesn't mean that you're going to be all fine and dandy. That could have a difficult conversation or a
mhm.
difficult emotion that you're going to express.
Yeah.
But it's
That's
going to be done mindfully versus I'm reacting and I'm
yep.
throwing a tantrum, right?
Yep. And you just said something that's really powerful. And that, I mean, that kind of goes back to what we talked about with boundaries too. But yeah, we don't want you to just be a doormat and say, okay, I'm just not going to say anything. Like, no, still speak
No,
up, speak your truth, say what you need to say, but responding in that loving way. Like you've paused for a moment, you've observed, and now you're proceeding.
absolutely.
The other thing I would say is ask yourself, like, this is where the conversation and the coaching comes in with yourself. What am I feeling? Why am I really feeling it? Because again, you can yell at your spouse, like, I'm so pissed off at you, or you're making me so angry. Or, like you said, kids always say that, Mom, you're making me feel this way. Dig a little bit deeper. Like, why do you feel angry? Why is that triggering you? And then more questions, right? Because we're always coaching ourselves, but how else could I look at this situation? Or if I was talking to a friend, what would I tell them? Or what part of this can I control? Because a lot of times the answer is nothing. And then it's like, why am I even bothering?
Exactly. Oh, I love that question. What can I control? And if I cannot control, if it's out of my control, I'm not wasting my
Mm-mm.
emotions because they're precious to me.
Yeah. That and then the friend one. Like, this is something I tell people like when we're coaching on health too,
Hmm.
right? So like I remember I had someone I, frequently ask like, what are you celebrating or what are you doing? Yada, 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 whatever. And she was like, well, I think I'm going to go get a massage. I just don't really know. I just don't really know if I'm going to get it. I'm like, what? Like, that's a weird thing to say. Like, you are not getting a massage. And she's like,
Hmm.
I just I don't know if I want to take the time for that. And I said, okay, let's pause for a moment. If your best friend came to you and said she's been stressed out and dealing with lots of health issues, I think I might want to get a massage. What would you tell her? And she's like, oh crap. I would tell her to go get a massage. I'm like, then go get the damn massage. Like,
Oh, I
it's
love
the same
that.
thing with
I
emotions.
love
Like,
that.
what would you tell a friend in that situation?
I love that. And that's something that we could ask ourselves. Like, you know what I mean? Like, what will I tell my friend, my best friend in this situation? Like you said, this could be, coaching ourselves.
It has to be. Like, yes, you can hire a coach, you can work with someone like us, but like ultimately, you've got to learn to do this on your own as well. Like,
Absolutely.
our goal is not for you to have to work with someone forever. Like,
No,
yes, there's time,
no,
there's seasons of life, right? There's definitely been seasons. I'm working with someone right now, but I don't want to always have someone. I just want to, okay, nope, now it feels like I need that again.
absolutely. 1000%, 1,000,000 agree.
So then what are some of your tips?
Ooh, okay. We'll talk about triggers in a minute, or did we talk about that?
Um,
If you get triggered.
I mean, I think we
If
kind
you
of
get
did.
triggered, what are some questions? Let me ask you. If
Yeah.
you get triggered by something, because we are going to get triggered, right? I mean, you and I have done the work forever, and we still get triggered. I get triggered all
We
the
do.
time.
I don't get triggered. What are you talking about?
I just got triggered today. So, what are some questions that we can ask ourselves, whether in self-reflection or in just coaching ourselves or in journaling?
I mean, two of them I did mention. Like, what would you tell a friend in that situation? And
Yeah.
what can I control or can I control anything?
Okay.
But I also think, like, what's the evidence for and against my thought?
I
Right? I'm
love that.
I'm angry, that's fine, but give me more. Or how else can I look at this situation? Or one of my favorites, and we don't pause to ask ourselves this, but I feel like if we did, life would just be so much better for everyone. Is
Yeah.
this going to matter in a week? Is this going to matter in a month? Is this going to matter in a year? If it is, then keep it going in a respectful way. But like if you're getting so triggered about something that's not even going to matter in 3 days,
What's the point? I love that. I love that. Yeah, no, I love it. And I know that, it's sometimes repeating ourselves does help because I know sometimes you're listening in the car. Yeah. Alrighty. So I am going to give the tip myself now. Yes?
yeah, go
After you
for
ask
it.
those
Sorry. For
questions.
those that heard like a loud bang, we're going to blame that on the husband. So
No, there wasn't a
we're
loud
keeping it
bang.
real.
There wasn't a loud bang. One day, Kira, we should start taking videos of those. Because I see you and I know what you're doing, and I'm like, oh my God, what did he do now?
You're like, hey, use those trigger techniques that we're going over right now.
We'll address that in November later this month.
Right.
Okay. Alrighty. So the most important tip is create your emotional emergency toolkit. And that is going to require you creating a calming routine. You got to create some routine that will help you to go to whenever your emotions are going out of hand, or you're reacting, or you don't understand. So it's really important to have this calming routine, and because it will be your go-to method for managing stress. It could be going for a walk. It could be listening to calming music. So that's why when you have that tool, when you have this routine, so consider that. So kind of like when, in case of an emergency, you know where to go get your passports and stuff like that. Let's say they're in the safe, right? Or you know where your documents are. Or let's say you're pregnant and you have your bag ready. So this is exactly the same. You have your emotional emergency toolkit ready, and it has several things that you can do to get away from those really difficult emotions, or reset yourself, ground yourself, etc. So creating a calming routine, that could be taking a walk, it could be listening to music, practicing yoga, it could be something like having a calming playlist. Have a calming playlist. You get on your phone, boom, that's it. This is my calming playlist. Or you have a go-to peaceful visualization. You can sit down with yourself for 5 minutes and visualize. It could be an app that you have on the phone. Like, for example, for me, I have the tapping solution and I go to it right away because it has several topics. If I'm having like too much anxiety or I'm having too much overwhelm or I feel stuck, I just go to the app and I do the tapping meditation that's related to those emotions. Or you can do some stretching. As long as those are things that will reset you, will bring you back to homeostasis, and will allow you to just kind of like to have the go-to. You know what I mean? Like when you're traveling, how you pack your healthy snacks that you can
Mhm.
go to in case you were served something unhealthy and
Junk.
you want to stick to your health routine. Same thing. Because sometimes even the self-reflection and all the stuff that we mentioned, it could be something like your emotions could be too big, your reactions could be too big for those. So that's where you want to go to your simple, very simple calming routine, which is your
Your safe
emotional
place.
emergency toolkit. In the same place. Keep it in
No,
the
I
same
said
place.
safe place. Your
Oh,
safe
safe place.
place.
Sorry, I heard you said same place. Yeah, keep it in the same place. Your mind.
Right. Well, I want to say something on that because this is again where boundaries come into place too, or play, I should say. I'm someone like I don't get triggered as much as I used to, right? Like it's just not, I've done so much work, but I used to get very triggered very easily, had no emotional intelligence, and I would need to leave. And that was something that was also modeled for me is you leave when you get upset. But looking back, because whenever I was like in that heated place, if someone was arguing with me, they'd be like, you just leave. Here's the thing. I didn't recognize that that was my safe place, right? Like going for a
Mm.
walk or going for a drive with the music blasting was a way for me to do the stop method, to just step away for a moment and to just let my emotions come back down and I could come back and have a conversation. But if the other person views it as you walking away, that's not helpful because you come back calm and now they're pissed off. So, conversation and boundaries. I needed to understand that that is what I need. So, I put the boundary up of this is nothing against you when we get in an argument. If I have to walk away, it's for me to come back calm, cool, collected, whatever, not, you know what I mean? Like, I
Yeah, no,
think,
and that's really important to communicate
yeah.
that. And I remember you just reminded me of something that I say with my kids because sometimes, setting the boundary does require me to say no.
Mhm.
And even though my son is fine with it, I mean, he's 18 now. I'm just when I'm giving examples when they were children, but my daughter's 13, and now it's that age where it's like,
Mhm.
sometimes I am going to say no, and then what she does is because she's very determined, she keeps pushing and pushing and pushing. So I use my words in order to express, and I tell her, I am setting a boundary when I say no, and no to this activity. We are not going to continue arguing about that because if I go against my intuition and my boundary and my whatever I expressed,
Mhm.
I'm the one who's going to feel the frustration and I'm going to get upset. So I want you to respect those boundaries. And we come to terms, like
Yeah.
respecting mom's boundaries. It's not like I'm saying no to all of the activities, right? So, but when I say no to something, I want you to also to respect my intuition and my boundary.
Yeah. I love that.
But she wouldn't know if you didn't express it.
Yeah.
Same with your example. No one's going to know that this is your way to taking a break because, like you said, if you didn't express it, you're going to come back, ooh la la, and then they're going to be pissed as
Yeah,
heck.
exactly. It's like the roles reversed.
And we're going to go over, go through the same
Yep.
thing.
And then I'm like, now you're triggering me. I have to leave again.
Exactly. So it does require communication and it requires patience. It just requires to do the
Practice.
thing.
And
Yeah.
yeah, like all of this, we always say healing is a journey. Healing any aspect of you, physical, emotional, spiritual, whatever, it's a journey. And this is a piece of it. But when you can really hone in on emotions and emotional intelligence, it goes a long way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I love this episode. I love talking emotions. I know we'll come back to them again, just in another way.
I know, huh? Because it's like, a lot of people liked it. So
Yeah.
we might keep talking about emotions because also the more we talk about it, the more, maybe those tips can kind of get engraved.
Right. Yeah.
All right.
Well, as always, if you like this episode, do all the things. Share it with a friend, subscribe, I don't know, like it, whatever else you can do with the
Everything.
podcast.
Yeah,
Just
I
do all the
don't know.
things.
Yeah. And we would
Do all the
love to
things.
kind of hear, like, rate
Yes.
and, kind of rate us and let us know, write comments or even send us DMs
Hmm.
on our Instagram to kind of see like maybe what other topics you want us to talk about, or are you enjoying the tips? Because we really want to make this actionable tips because we know that small tips, small changes lead to big results. So yeah, we want to hear all that.
We do. Thanks, guys. See you on the next
Bye.
episode.